the idea that we're just a collection of atoms has generated, like, has been really sterile. And so people are looking at this and they're saying, okay, if I'm just a collection of atoms, I just need to take pills to fix my, like, spiritual problems, which is not working. People are taking more and more of these antidepressants and feeling worse and worse. Depression and suicide and all this is, on the rise. Meanwhile, we talked earlier about, like, the science, capital S, and the way in which COVID sort of revealed this weird reverential and spiritualist tone, even to the so-called secular rationalist mindset. And the only other option that people see on the table is like this techno religion, where we're going to leave our humanity behind and upload our consciousness to the cloud and attain some kind of enlightenment that way. All of these seem like really crazy and flawed approaches to me, but none of them looks like a secular approach. Like, the secular approach is just not even on the table anymore. Even when people say they're taking the secular approach, what they're actually doing is making a god or a religion out of science, reason, and so forth. So I'm not a Pollyanna about, like, oh, we're all about to go back to church and become, card-carrying Christians or whatever. But I think the idea that we were all going to just, like, increasingly order our lives in this rational, progressive way has broken down. And the more furiously people try to cling to it, the more wildly it spins out of control.
So I'm pursuing, in my own pursuit of these questions, through my lens of working with business owners on implementing their own, vision for themselves and their families and their companies financially. Ultimately, through a lot of work, I found the conclusion is, if your business and your own personal financial life are not rooted in an attempt to serve God, it's ultimately meaningless, and you're going to find some smaller aim that's not going to motivate you through the decades and through life's changes. And when it gets hard, it's going to be much easier to quit. If you root your business's success on money, or success on God instead of money, if you root your life's journey on a pursuit of God instead of a pursuit of that next financial goal, then you're going to be in a better place. And it encourages me to see, as a society, us move closer to God, where it, at least seems like that's what's happening. I'm observing something similar to what you're describing, is that we're coming closer to God. And I think that's good for leaders to be in a position to say, hey, ultimately what we're going to move with, our widget company, somehow we've got to figure out, how does this widget company serve God? And it doesn't mean that, like, we have prayers in the company cafeteria every Wednesday, although I guess it could. It means that we've got to root what we're doing, our why, our own purpose, has to be in something bigger than just making more widgets and selling more things. And if it is, eventually we try to build the biggest and the biggest and the biggest aim, we're going to get to God. And that's a good thing.